Hi folks, so in this video I thought it might be useful for those of you interested in searching for academic jobs to break down an advertisement for a creative writing position, just so you can kind of see how these typically read and how you can understand what you're looking at. So to get to this job ad, just to retrace my steps, I went to hireadjobs.com, clicked on faculty, then chose English and literature. I chose to prioritize by date, posted, and then over here I filtered for full-time. And then just scrolling down a little bit, you get to assistant professor in creative writing at Massachusetts Institution of Technology, Cambridge, Massachusetts, MIT. So I'm going to click on this ad, and I'm just going to walk through this relatively quickly. And I'm going to read it out loud, most of it, and talk through some of this. So comparative media studies in the writing section at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts, invites applications for a tenure-track faculty position at the rank of assistant professor in creative writing starting July 1st, 2026, or as soon thereafter as possible. So keep this quote-unquote start date in mind. You'll notice, first of all, the posting date is the 27th of June. So the ad has already gone up in late June of 2025 for a job that doesn't start for a year from then. So this just gives you a little bit of insight into the timeline that is often in place as it relates to when these advertisements appear and when these jobs will begin. We'll get more into timeline a little bit later here. Okay, so the next section is, and I'm not going to read all of this. This is just a description of the institution and the department. Most of them will explain like how big the department is, what kind of programs they offer. So MIT, I didn't know this, offers an undergraduate major, minor, and concentration in writing. And then just some other stuff about them. So the thing you really want to see is the position description. So let's just start here. We'll just read through this whole thing. We seek a candidate to contribute to the Institute's intellectual life by pursuing an active publishing agenda, teaching courses in creative writing and related subjects at the undergraduate level, advising students, and directing senior theses. That's all pretty standard. The nice thing about this one is it doesn't mention having to teach first-year composition or other kind of general education courses. So that's a pretty cush situation because the vast majority of jobs, I will tell you right now, in creative writing these days don't let you just teach creative writing. At the vast majority of institutions that are going to be doing hires, they're going to be looking for people who are at the very least willing, not necessarily experienced with all of those, but willing to teach a variety of different things. So it's very hard these days, though they do exist, but they are rare and they are extremely competitive, to find positions that are solely teaching creative writing. Okay, so we encourage candidates who write fiction of any or many sorts, including literary fiction, speculative fiction, romance, fantasy, science fiction, or other genre fiction. Novelists and short story writers whose writing practice also includes less traditional work in writing for comics, the screen, and digital and non-digital games are welcomed as well. We are especially interested in candidates whose work engages with topics including race, ethnicity, diaspora, global south, gender, feminism, sexuality, disability, and class, as well as the intersections among them. Okay, so what this tells us is even though it's assistant professor in creative writing, they want somebody who identifies fiction as their general background. Now, I don't usually say this, but I'm going to say it here. You would not have to have done the actual fiction emphasis in order to apply for this job. The emphases are really for you as students to have something that organizes your program of study. What they mean here is that you want to be someone who can talk about writing fiction, who can talk about the fiction that you've written. You don't have to have emphasized fiction in a program. Okay. You want to be able to speak to the fact that you do it. It would be very helpful if you've got fiction publications, and just be able to talk about the kind of fiction that you write, whether you actually did a fiction emphasis or not. Okay. Now, all of these other things are quote unquote ideal, but you certainly don't need to check all of these boxes. And I would say that this is so broad: race, ethnicity, diaspora, global south, gender, feminism, sexual disability, and class, as well as the intersections among them, that it's hard to imagine very many fiction writers who don't touch on one of those. Okay. So never feel like you have to self-reject because the things they're also quote unquote also interested in don't line up with what you do. You can find ways to talk about yourself that does that, or just leave it out. Don't worry about it. I have been interviewed for jobs in the past where I would say that I met the basic qualification of being a fiction writer, but didn't really address many of the other, these would be nice. We're interested in this, blah, blah, blah. And that's okay. Okay, a full-time teaching load is 3 undergraduate classes per year and typically includes classes such as writing and reading short stories, fiction workshop, genre fiction, and writing longer fiction. Okay, this is an incredibly small teaching load. Here at Lindenwood, just by way of example, the typical faculty teaching load is 4 courses per semester if you are full-time. So our full-time faculty teach 2 in each 8-week session during the fall and spring, and may choose to teach in the summer if they wish. So that's a very low teaching load. But that also means that this idea of directing senior theses and advising students is going to take up some of your time. Okay, required qualifications. This position requires a PhD or MFA in creative writing. Hey, when you all graduate, that's going to count as you by the start of employment, or a professional record of equivalent achievement and a significant record of publication. So you do want to have something published, but don't let them decide what is good enough to be significant. They don't say how many things you need to have published, whether you need to have published a book, et cetera, et cetera. And then preferred qualifications, experience with classroom or workshop teaching, especially at the college level. What I like to say about preferred qualifications is mention them if you've got them. Don't worry about it if you don't. As long as you are okay with the prospect of getting rejected by a job, don't worry about the preferred qualifications. Don't address the fact that you don't have them. Apply for the job even if you don't meet them. Certainly mention that you meet them if you do, but don't worry about it if you don't. Apply for the job anyway. Okay, so then applications must include a cover letter, a CV, approximately 25 pages of creative writing. That means double-spaced, even if it doesn't say so. Evidence of teaching effectiveness. Now, in one of our seminars, we will or have, depending on when you're watching this, talked about what that might mean. And then the names of 3 references of whom letters may be requested at a later stage. Review of applications will begin September 15th, 2025. So if we go back up to our deadline here, once again, they're starting their review of applications in September for a job that starts in the following July. So just so you get a sense of like how long this can take. You're going to apply here. I will talk about Interfolio in another seminar. That is a service that many schools ask people to use to submit applications. It's actually pretty easy. You basically create a free account, you upload materials, and then your application is submitted. That's basically what it is. And then just other stuff about, employment is contingent upon the completion of a satisfactory background check. That's not unusual. And then an equal opportunity employment statement that you'll see everywhere. So those are the basics of a job ad. This is pretty standard in terms of how it's structured, what it tells you, what you can glean from it, and what you can't. So if you've got questions about that, let me know, and I'll be happy to try to help you with them.